Real quick, Devin obviously had the pop-up today out at Second and Jackson. Just your thoughts on having that set up and the court and the shoes and I obviously went over there today and saw it, but just what you think of the whole setup and how it went.
Yeah, it was important to me to, make sure the city was involved. I think that's one thing I probably regretted from, the book one was the drop was in Miami. And I heard a lot about that from, my Phoenix faithful. So we want to do an activation here in the hometown and just get the community involved, get, everybody in one place to celebrate the moment.
Then just a quick follow for you. Season low as far as points allowed. What do you feel like you guys did well defensively tonight that enabled that to happen?
Just connected, communication at a high level. We wanted to come out and handle business and not play with the game tonight. So that was our point of emphasis. And, once we're guarding like that, everything else becomes a lot easier.
And Royce, obviously you're on one of these heaters starting off here. I'm just curious what was working for you tonight as far as getting your looks tonight.
These guys just finding me when I'm open, creating opportunities for myself and, taking an open shot. And when I don't shoot, turn that ball over. So I might as well shoot it.
quick follow. Obviously got a huge road trip coming up here. Just curious what you're hoping to carry over from the two wins, obviously New York and this one, over into the road trip.
I think just our defensive mentality, coming out from the jump, jumping on teams, creating a lot of turnovers, getting transition baskets, and offense, moving the ball, playing the right way, creating looks for each other, and, winning a possession game at the end of the day.
Book, what have you seen from the unit that comes in when you're resting? They've swung a lot of games at that point and did so again tonight.
Yeah, they have a lot of chemistry. They always up the pressure. They continue. They have a chemistry, a high level of chemistry, and the ball's hopping around, and there's no dip off when we step off the floor. So we understand that's important to go where we're trying to go. Keep everybody confident, keep everybody involved. We'll be in a good spot.
Royce, we've talked a lot right over here. We've talked a lot about how you're shooting a career high from three this year, but you're also taking the most attempts you've had in your career per game. Is this the most you've felt empowered by a coaching staff, or are you taking more because you're making more? Or is a little bit of both?
I think it's just the way the team is built, the way coach wants us to play. I think my shooting is advantage for us on the offense end, creating space, for these guys driving, getting to the basket. So, just being confident, continuing to put in the work, and just taking the open ones whenever I get them.
Book, you've always been a gifted scorer. Just out of curiosity, have you ever aspired to lead the league in scoring?
Not since I've been in the league. Maybe before I was in the league. I'd like to lead it in wins, and I've done that once in my career. So that's the main thing. Like nights like tonight, when you can get a fourth quarter off, your numbers might take a hit, but the longevity of the season, the course of an 82-game season, keeping everybody healthy and winning games is the main priority.
And the other night you said, after a game, I think you said that sometimes your willingness to share the ball, that you get criticized for that. Why do you think that is?
It's usually by people that probably didn't play a team sport or just don't understand the landscape of the NBA completely and understand that you need everybody on the court to be a threat. You need everybody confident at the right time of the year, and that all starts right now. So once everybody else has it going, like Royce said, it opens up lanes for everybody. The ball's hopping around and everybody's in rhythm.
Hey, Devin, just wondering what goes into the art of making a great lob pass? You had a few of them tonight, and in general, you and Mark are really connecting there.
Yeah, I think I found something with it as of recent. Just throw it over the defender's head. I think I've missed Mark a few times, had a few turnovers trying to throw it away from the rim, trying to not get it deflected. But if you just throw it closer to the rim, the better, and just let them guys handle the rest.
You kind of touched on your first question here, but what did it mean to you personally, just seeing the fans lined up across the block and waiting for your shoes?
Yeah, it was dope. I came down here late last night and kind of seen the build out, and just wanted to get the city involved. Like I keep saying, I missed out on the book one for that opportunity. So for the first drop of the two, I wanted the people out.
Hey guys, back here, Eliav Gabay, Sports 360 AZ. This one's for both of you, Devin and then Royce. Coach won't talk about it himself because he's too humble, but what makes Coach Ott a great candidate for Coach of the Year?
I'd just say, he's a guru. He studies the game at a high level. I've spoken on it before. He's not just watching our games. He's watching everybody across the league and what's working and what's not. The evolution of it, he doesn't feel like he has all the right answers. He understands that the game's changing and evolving at the same time, and you have to keep up. So, I noticed that when I got to meet with him before we hired him as a coach, and, everything has stood true in that department.
And just to go off what he said, I think he has a way with connecting with the players, putting us in positions to succeed, offensively and defensively, connecting us. I think he's also willing to listen, see what we see out there and why he's coaching us, and then, him listening to adapting during the game. So I think it's just all the above.
Yeah, for both of you, obviously getting very close to being healthy with Jalen and Jamari. What are you two both looking most forward to when that time comes?
Say just having more threats out there, having guys that can hoop, having guys that, want to compete at the highest level. I know Jalen's itching to get back. Even Bouye, he was in the hall post-game, ready to be ready for the next one. So, the more talent out there, the better.
I think just the way we're able to play, those two guys add, different factors, different attributes, and the way they hoop is just going to help us out.
Royce, you've been a part of a few teams that have done a lot of unique things on the defensive end at specific times. What's the kind of commonality that you see, having been a part of so many, that translates to impacting games and ultimately dictating turns with your defense?
I think just communication is the biggest part. All five guys out there being connected, talking to each other, covering for each other. I mean, a game in basketball, we're going to make mistakes, but it's, how we can limit those mistakes, build off each other, and just, lock in defensively. Defense wins games, creates easy baskets on the offensive end.
And then for Devin, obviously at the helm of the offense, it feels like you all can play at different speeds. Sometimes you do certain things that slow the game down. You can play faster, obviously, off of turnovers, and in between that. As a person at the helm, what's the kind of feel that you have for kind of understanding the flow of the game and what your offense needs to be successful?
Yeah, I think first it starts on the defense end. You don't want to be, playing against a half-court defense every possession. So, when we're getting turnovers and we're flying around the court, that's how we get easy ones. The defense isn't able to get to our bodies. We move the ball very well. We space very well also. We still have some packages, against half-court defenses. We understand late game it might come to that. So we've been just focusing on screen setting and spacing, and, it's been beneficial for us.
Thanks, guys.
Yep.